Hi guys, good morning. I almost feel like stopping this and okay. So let's just look at this. Hi guys, I love you guys. Welcome. So we're talking about that virtuous woman. Okay. There's a friend of mine, she always used to say to me, I'm waiting on my husband. I'm waiting on my husband. And her situation wasn't a perfect one, but she was adamant that she was waiting on her husband. Well, let's just look at some of the virtues of the virtuous woman. She's an excellent wife. Her heart with her husband, he trusts her. And he lacks no thing because of her. He lacks no good thing. She does him good and she doesn't do him evil. Now, I don't know if some people stopped there, but we got to go a little further. She looks for wool and flax and works with her hands in delight. She stretches out her hands to the distaff and her hands grasp the spindle. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. She rises also while it is still night and gives food to her household and portions to her maids. She is not afraid for the snow, for her husband. All her household are clothed with scarlet. Hi, sweetheart. She extends her hand to the poor, and she stretches out her hands to the needy. She is like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. She considers a field and buys it from her earnings. Okay, let's just stop there. Okay, you guys get the... Okay, hi guys. We're going to go a little bit. We're going to go back into that word one more time, but right now we're going to stop there. Okay, now, so for the woman who says, oh, I'm waiting on my husband. I'm just waiting on my husband. That is fine. But meanwhile, what are you doing? You can wait on him and you can wait and you could keep your chastity. You can keep your virtue. But are you being a wife that is industrious? Are you going to school maybe? One of mine. Are you doing something productive with your life? Another one of mine. Are you? Because if not, that's kind of like waiting in vain. You have to consider that any man that discerns that he wants to be a co-inheritor of a life with you, he is also going to look at the mechanism of you. What have you been doing while you've been waiting? Have you been doing anything productive while you've been waiting? Do you have a college degree? Did you purchase a home? Did you invest in some stock? What have you done? So you're just going to sit here, cross your legs, and say, I'm waiting for my husband. So you sit home in your project with no car, no way to get around, no transportation, barely taking the bus, probably, getting a little assistance with food stamps. And, you're really struggling, but you're waiting on your husband. So when your husband finds you, what is he going to say? Well, yeah, she lives in the projects. Yeah, she went on some hard times, but I think I want her. Yes, that's likely that he may. But what have you been doing? Are you in school while you're in the projects? Are you babysitting while you're doing that? What are you doing? Are you saving? You just can't sit there and lock up your womb and think that, that man is going to, no. Let's go into the wives with the talents. One of the wives, she had, I don't know the numbers verbatim, but my leaders are in here. So they know. One person had 10 talents, one person had 2, and one person had 1. God gave them these talents. So the person that had 5 talents flipped it and gained 10 talents. The person that had 3 flipped it, and I believe they got 5. And the person that had 1 talent buried it because they just wanted to make sure they had something to account for. Well, when the master came back and realized that the person only had 10 talents, he was like, oh, great. Enter into my rest. I gave you 5. You created 10. Enter into my rest. The other person that had the middle amount, enter into my rest. Thank you, my good and faithful servant. And the person that had 1 and was being smart and hid that 1 talent because she said, I know you're mean and I just want to make sure that I'm not sinning. And here's the 1 talent. I buried it and here it is. Wow, happy first day on Periscope, Sam. So basically, you've sat here and you've turned around with one talent that God gave you. You buried that talent. Well, let's just go back into Daddy's. Let's go back here and let's just look into the spiritual gifts because we all have them. I'm trying to get some focus, you guys. Let me get a little closer. Okay. Now, these are some of the spiritual gifts, and we all have them. Somebody may have the gift of prophecy. Somebody may have the gift of serving. I know I have a lot of teachers in here with me. They're all teachers. We have encouragers. We have givers. I actually have leaders in here as well. Mercy. Some people have wisdom. Some people have knowledge. Some people have the gift of faith. Some people have healing. Some people have miraculous powers. Some are discerner of spirits. Some get the gifts of speaking in tongues. I'll repeat. Some get the gifts of speaking in tongues. Some get the gifts of interpretation of tongues. And some helpers. Okay, so that means that you should at least have one of a plethora of spiritual gifts that maybe you could begin doing your work in the kingdom with. And that begins with seeking the Lord and having a personal relationship with him and asking him to use you. Ask him to Jabez you. Ask him to enlarge your territory for his name's sake. Ask him, what do you want me to be doing at this time, Lord? What should I be doing, God? But don't just sit there and tuck your chastity between your legs and not use your gift. You're not going to be happy until you're doing your kingdom work anyways. I mean, yes, you could go to work every day and you could be serving in your work and everything else. But some of you guys are business owners. Some are supposed to be writing books. Some are supposed to be traveling. Some are supposed to be ambassadors for their nations. I mean, there are a lot of gifts that God gave us so that we could use them. But if we don't press in and we don't remain focused on him and not that I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I'm just going to church every Sunday and I'm just waiting on the Lord. You got to get out there and serve. We need to be fishers of men. We need to testify. We need to tell what God did to us. We need to learn. We need to seek knowledge. He said we suffer for lack of knowledge. We need to ask him for wisdom. What did Solomon ask God for? When Solomon became the king, he asked for wisdom. God was so impressed with what he asked for that God gave him even much more on top of that. A lot of people, when they talk about marrying and they talk about husbands, a lot of people talk about Ruth and her husband. I can't think of his name. Anybody know his name offhand? You guys know Ruth and I can't see down there, but I know my team leaders know his name. And they always talk about him. And Ruth, he was very rich. He owned a vineyard, and he saw Ruth gleaning in the fields, and he helped Ruth, and he actually gave Ruth, had people drop things in the field so she could pick them up in the field and things like that. And what ended up happening is that Ruth ended up marrying this man because he was the actual cousin of the man that she had married prior that was deceased. And I'm still thinking of his name. I'm sorry if I'm sidetracked. His name is not Jabez. I can't believe I don't know his name. So she married him and she laid at the bottom of his bed and literally actually had to wait until he looked up and, he saw her. But why don't we talk about Rachel? Why don't we talk about Rachel and her husband, Isaac? Why don't we talk about how the angel literally went out and found Rachel for Isaac, as Isaac told him to, as Abraham asked him to do. Abraham asked him, I don't want you to just find any woman. I want you to find a woman from our own kind. I want you to go back to my country and I want you to find somebody for my son. And this servant said, well, God, the first woman that comes up to the well, and when she comes to the well, and I ask her for something to drink. She gives me something to drink. And then she says, oh, well, you have 10 other donkeys here. Let me get them some water too. Then I'll know that that is Isaac's wife. We have to remember, God is always on time. You have to be able to have something to give. You have to be able to show yourself worthy. You have to study to show yourself approved. If Rebecca didn't have the foreknowledge of kindness, didn't have the foreknowledge of helping, didn't have a bowl to hold the water in, and wasn't suffering so badly that she couldn't extend her water out to not only the men but to the animals as well, she would not have been found. The women that had oil in their lamps versus the women that didn't, they said, look, we've got our oil. You've got to go buy your own. Go get your own. And when the other ones that did not preserve their oil went out to go buy oil, the bridegroom came. And the ones who had oil left. We are not called to be foolish. While you're waiting, which is fine, which is beautiful, and I so encourage that. My name is Chastity Child. Of course I encourage that. But while you're waiting, I also encourage you to not only be virtuous, but be industrious. If you're called to write, I need you to start writing. If you're called to go out and serve, I don't care if you go to the nursing homes and sit down and read a chapter a day to the elderly people there. Do it. I don't care if you have an ability to be kind and loving to people and you go to the libraries and volunteer to read some of the children's books. Do it. You never know how God can exalt your gift in your well-doing. You never know that how when you take a little step out, a little leap out in an area that you feel compelled to work well in, you feel compelled, you have a pulling, God might find you there and say, wow. And the next thing you know, the CEO walks in and says, who's this girl that's coming all the time? We have an office in Philadelphia. Let's send her over there. You think she might want to relocate? Boom, you're out of the projects. You never know. A servant of the Lord could come in and see you serving, and you could still be living in that project. You could still be receiving food stamps and say, isn't that beautiful? She's the one. You're the one, and you're enough. You're the one and you're enough. Whether you're in the projects, whether you're getting food stamps, whether you're under the subway, whether you're under the tunnel, but be industrious while you wait. In all things, glorify God. And I don't care how menial it may appear to you what you're doing, do something. I don't care if it's going to school, learning, being around other people, other teachers, other leaders, congregating yourself among people or among wise people. And if you have friends and everybody is like in a low state and you're the only one, everybody's leaning on you, then I beg you to ask the Lord to enlarge in your territory. Open up your space so that you could be around people that are builders and homeowners and business owners, other people with like-minded, kingdom mindsets, because you're royal. And royalty deserves to sit in a very high place amongst the council and amongst other children and friends and considerers of Christ. Your first day, suave. Mwah. I see a lot of my team leaders coming in. I just want to say I love you guys. You guys, mwah. You guys go forth and teach. Go forth and teach lovingly. Go forth. You've got it. All right? I love you all.